Shalom, everyone. Welcome to my channel, Real Serious Productions. I go by the name of Miss EYG. And welcome to a deeper look series. And as you see in the description below, today's deeper look story is the story of Jacob and Rachel. And of course, we cannot forget Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah, right? They all go in together. So we're going to take a deeper look at that story. Disregard the whiteness of my hair. It's curling cream that didn't really dry all the way. So, yeah, I just decided to do the video anyway. But, you know, I was just trying to get my curls popping. It worked. It's not dry yet. But, welcome to my channel. And for all my new viewers, welcome. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And if you guys haven't watched any of my other videos, I will very much encourage you guys to do that as well. Okay? So, yes, as I said, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I want to first start by saying that everything that I'm going to be talking about, as always, is going to be straight from the Bible. And whatever is not going to be from the Bible is going to be from the taken out books of the Bible. And in this story's case, we're going to be using the book of Jasher, okay, as another source today. So, without further ado, let's hop right into this knowledge, okay? Okay, so we are going to start, of course, the book of Genesis, where they first met, where their story first began. It's going to be Genesis 29, and we're going to start at verse 1, okay? Then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east, and he looked, and behold, a well in the field. Lo, there 3 flocks of sheep lying by it, for out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in this place. And Jacob said unto them, My brethren, whence be ye? He's asking, who are they? And they said, Of Haran are we. And he said unto them, Know ye Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said unto them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. And behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. Okay, so we're going to stop right there for an instant. So, if you guys watched my last video, where I spoke about briefly about well, the video was about Isaac and Rebecca, right? But briefly I mentioned Jacob and Esau, the twin brothers, right? And I talked about what happened with the birthright and things like that. And if you watch that video, you know that I also mentioned that his mother and father both had sent him away because his brother hated him so much that he wanted to kill Jacob. Esau wanted to kill Jacob because he felt like he stole his birthright, he stole his blessings, and things like that. So Esau really had this hatred towards his brother, kind of like Cain did for Abel. When he slew his brother, he killed his brother. Esau had the same hatred for his brother, Jacob, so his mother and father had to send him away, and they sent him away to the, back to the land, where they came from, with their kinsmen, because they wanted to make sure that Jacob, you know, took a decent wife that was not of the Canaanites. So they were protecting him and protecting his up and coming bloodline, because they knew that he had this blessing, and they knew that this bloodline had to proceed through him. So they wanted to make sure that he was going to marry the right woman and so forth. So his mother and father sent him away to her brother's household, because her brother had daughters, and we're gonna get to that in a second. But yeah, this is what happened throughout his journey. He was journeying after being sent away, And he's trying to find his uncle Laban and his daughters, of course, right? And he came upon Leah, not Leah, I'm sorry, Rachel, which is the keeper of sheep. So Rachel came to the well because she was the keeper of the sheep and things like that. So we are going to skip down, still in chapter 29. We're going to skip down to verse 9. And while he yet spake with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. So he did this for her. He started watering the flock for her because she was supposed to do it. That's why she came by the well. But he was so flattered by her beauty and things like that. This is kind of like love at first sight. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. Okay. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, then he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house and told Laban, and Jacob, talk about Jacob here, told Laban all these things. So he told him why he came, who is he, what he's doing there. And of course, Laban, being the brother of Rebekah, he kind of already knew what was going on so much for a little bit. Okay, so we're going to skip down now to 29:16. Okay, so this is the mention of the daughters right here. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel, said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. Okay, so before I go into more detail, there's a little bit that I want to bring out about this, about the mentioning of the 2 daughters. Okay, so it says here in Genesis that, Laban had 2 daughters, Rachel and Leah. Rachel was the younger, Leah was the older. But Jacob fell in love with Rachel. He wanted Rachel to be his wife. Okay. And it also mentioned that, I want to say it verbatim here. Leah was tender-eyed. Leah is being described as being tender-eyed. But Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. So when you first read that, it make you feel or go, okay, well, they're describing Rachel as being beautiful. They're describing her as being well-favored because Jacob loved her. He fell in love with her. He wants her to be his wife. And they describe Leah as being tender-eyed. So your first glance at that is going to be like, okay, well, we're talking about looks. We're talking about in terms of looks here. So that means that Rachel or Leah was not attractive, because how that's being put together here on how it's describing Rachel to be the attractive one. But they're saying tender-eyed. But I'm going to show you guys that that's not exactly the case here. Before I tell you exactly what that means, I'm going to show you. First, let's go to one of my favorite books. Let's go to the book of Jasher. And we're going to see what the book of Jasher says. So it's going to be book of Jasher. And it's going to be chapter 28. And it's going to be verse 26 through 29. Okay, this is what it says. I'm always going to encourage my viewers, read it, check it out yourself. It's a lot. As I said in my previous videos, these lost books of the Bible have so much information and so much missing pieces that, when you read the regular Bible, the regular King James Bible, it kind of makes you, it ponders questions in your head, because you're like, wait a minute, something doesn't seem all the way right. When you read these lost books or taken out books of the Bible, it makes that things very much more clearer and very much more for your understanding. So the book of Jasher, as I said before in one of my other videos, is one of the main, especially when you're rereading and restudying these old scriptures, the Old Testament, especially the beginning. Jasher has a lot of information that was taken out from Genesis. A lot. Okay? So if you guys haven't read the book of Jasher, please read it. There's so much more in there that you are like, oh my goodness, that's what happened? Yeah. I will encourage to read all the books of the Bible, but the book of Jasher, because that's my reference here, it pieces together so many things that wasn't really making sense to me before. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys that Rachel and Leah, we're not talking about the looks here in chapter 29, verses 16 to 18. But book of Jasher 28, and we're going to start at verse 26 through 29. In the 56th year of the life of Jacob, people came from Haran, and Rebekah was told concerning her brother Laban, the son of Bethuel. So this is still regarding his mother, right? For the wife of Laban was barren in those days, and bore no children. And also all his handmaids bore none to them. So Laban's wife, Adinah, she was barren, just as everyone else. She was barren. This is Rachel and Leah's mother. Before she had them, she was barren at a point of time. And so her handmaids and things like that. So basically the women that were in her household, they were barren. And the Almighty Yah afterward remembered Adinah, the wife of Laban, and she conceived and bore twin daughters. And Laban called the name of his daughters the name of the elder, Leah, and the name of the younger, Rachel. And for those who came and told these things, Rebekah rejoiced greatly, because the Almighty Yah had visited her brother, and he had got children. So let me read verse 28 once again, if that skipped over for you, if that went over your head. And the Almighty Yah afterward remembered Adinah, the wife of Laban, and she conceived and bore twin daughters. And Laban called the names of his daughters the name of the elder Leah, and the name of the younger Rachel, just like it says in the book of Genesis. So this is to prove that if they were twins, right? How could it be that one would be more attractive and the other is ugly? Yeah, there's such thing as fraternal twins, but I'm going to show you exactly where and how that is not the case here either. Even if they were fraternal twins, tender-eyed was not being what we call the description of what comes to your mind at first glance of reading that scripture. Tender-eyed is not meant to be descriptive of her look. Even though the very next sentence, they're describing Rachel to be a certain beauty, beautiful and well favored, and that's describing her look. But tender eye wasn't meant to describe Leah, and I'm going to tell you exactly how. When you look up the word tender eyed, right, and the word that comes into mind, the definition that comes forth, it means soft, it means weak. It means, what's the other word? Immature. It means vulnerable. Basically, in a sense where it's describing someone that is vulnerable and weak and easily to manipulate or use for manipulation. right? And I'm going to tell you exactly. Stay with me, guys. I'm going to show you that that's the case. That is, it's not about her being not attractive or lazy-eyed or she was just ugly. Like, they're twins. So twins, we all know, look alike. So if Rachel was beautiful, Leah had to be beautiful, because we just read here in the book of Jasher, they're twins. It's just that Leah came out maybe a few minutes older. You know how twins go. Leah came out first, and then Rachel. So Leah's probably like a few minutes earlier than Rachel, but they're twins. It says it right here in the book of Jasher that they're twins. So how can one twin be attractive and the other not attractive? And even if they were fraternal twins, we're going to go more into scripture as to why I don't think, even if they were fraternal twins, the description of them, of their looks, is a deception on what the scripture is actually saying when you look deeper into it, okay? So the tender eye that they were talking about was her being soft or weak when it comes to her being used to trick Jacob. If you guys read the story, you know that Jacob, he wanted Rachel. He loved Rachel. And he told Laban, look, I'll work for you. I'll serve you 7 years to have Rachel as my wife. Laban said okay, but then he ended up tricking Jacob with Leah's help. Leah helped her father trick Jacob. And I'm going to get into scripture on exactly why I say that, because so this is the reason why I'm saying that she was weak in a sense to being easily to manipulate and to being used to trick a man that she knew loved her sister, but she wanted him for herself. Regardless if she had to listen to her father or not, she went along with this. She knew what she was doing. You know, she knew. So before I get into the deeper sense of it, let's go back to Genesis. It's going to be Genesis 29, verse 22 through 25. And then we're going to go and look further. So this is what Genesis says. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. This is after him and Jacob had made an agreement, said, okay, you served me for 7 years, you can have my daughter as your wife, yada, yada, yada. Okay. They threw a feast, right? And gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, this is Laban, and brought her to him. And he went into her, and Laban gave his daughter, Leah, Zilpah, his maid, for a handmaid. So remember we spoke about in the story of Sarah or Sarai, when you get married as a woman, you have a handmaid. You get a handmaid, right? And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is thou that hast done to me? Did I not serve with thee for Rachel? Therefore, why hast you beguiled me? Like he's saying, why did you do this to me? I served you. We had a deal. We said I served you 7 years for Rachel's wife because I love her. And we had a deal. So why did you do this? Why did you trick me? Why did you beguile me? And this is what Laban said, which is, it draws questions. And Laban said, it must not be done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. So if this is Rachel's brother and they both know about the Most High and serving the Most High, where is he getting this information from? Where did he get this idea from to give the younger, to give the firstborn before the younger? Or if this was so, why didn't he just tell Jacob this? And him and Jacob could have came up with another ordeal, or you know what I mean? He could have told Jacob and they could have talked about it. Why did he have to trick him, right? But let's go back to the book of Jasher, and we're gonna see exactly how this whole thing played out and what what really went down. So we're going to go to Jasher 31. And then we're going to start the way to verse 1. Okay. And it's all the way to verse 10. The book of Joshua has a lot of information, guys. And in the 7th year, Jacob's service, which he served Laban, was complete. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for the days of my service are fulfilled. And Laban did so. And Laban and Jacob assembled all the people of the place, and they made a feast. And in the evening, Laban came to the house, and afterward Jacob came there with the people of the feast, and Laban extinguished all the lights that were in the house. He turned off all the lights that were in the house. Oh, it gets deeper. And Jacob said unto Laban, wherefore doest thou do this thing unto us? And Laban answered such, it is our custom to act in this land. So Jacob's like, why are you turning out all the lights? You know, what's going on? Why are you doing this? Basically, we know that Jacob is being, you know, following the Most High's laws. So this is new to him. You can tell this is something that the Most High didn't tell Jacob these things, or Jacob wasn't known to these things. And he's asking Laban, like, well, what's going on? Why are you doing all this stuff with the lights? And afterwards, Laban took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he came to her, and Jacob did not know that she was Leah. So maybe he had a veil over her face. It doesn't say it, but you know, the lights are already out. So I'm pretty sure she had some covering over her face. Or if you saw, or you saw my last video, when Rebecca was being brought to Isaac, she had a veil over her face. She put a veil over her face because the servant told her, that's your husband there. That's your husband that I came and got you for. So she put a veil over her face. So me saying that, even though it doesn't really specifically say in scripture, I believe that she had a veil over her face, and you know, to hide whatever else that's in her face, right? So he couldn't tell that this was the wrong twin. And plus the lights were already out, right? And Laban gave his daughter Leah, his handmaid Zilpah, for a handmaid. And all the people that were in the feast knew what Laban had done to Jacob, but they did not tell the thing to Jacob. So all the people that were in this feast for this wedding ceremony, because that's what it is, they knew what Laban was doing. They knew this was Leah. Everyone knew it was Leah except for Jacob, including Leah, of course. She knew what she was doing. She was the accomplice, right? And all the neighbors came that night to Jacob's house, and they ate and they drank and they rejoiced and played before Leah upon trampolines with dances, and they responded before Jacob, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. So they're making this dance and they're shouting, they're saying this chant, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. And it says, Jacob heard the words, but did not understand their meaning, but he thought such might be their custom in the land. So he heard what they were saying, but he didn't understand what they were saying. So he's just like, okay, maybe this is part of their custom too. I'm not going to say anything. Maybe this is part of their custom too. And all the neighbors spoke the words before Jacob during the night, and the lights that were in the house Laban had extinguished. And in the morning, when the daylight appeared, Jacob turned to his wife, and he saw, and behold, it was Leah, and that he had been laying in his bosom. And Jacob said, behold, now I know what the neighbors said last night. How Leah, they said, and they knew, they were saying hell Leah, and I knew it not. So this is the next morning when he woke up, and when the sunlight is coming into the room, and he's looking at his wife now. He's waking up with Leah on his arm, and he said, now I know what they were saying. They were saying hell Leah, Leah. They were saying Leah. So he's like, now I know what they're saying, but last night I didn't know what they were saying. Now I know. They were saying your name, Leah. And it goes forth and so on. And Laban, he asked Laban, like, why did you do this to me? And of course, like I just read, Laban was like, you know, it is not in our customs to give the second-born daughter before the firstborn, even though Jacob didn't know of these things and things like that. So he had to, of course, if you know the story, he had to serve Laban another 7 years just to get Rachel for his wife, which he did. And she got a handmaid, and her name was Bilhah. So, yeah, this is why I say that Leah, the term of her being tender-eyed, as you see, as I just read, her tender-eyed or being soft or being vulnerable was a part of her characteristic, because she went in on this plan with her father to trick Jacob. She knew what he was doing. Everyone in the entire household knew what was being done and the trick being done unto Jacob, except for Jacob. He's the only one who didn't know. So I was saying that the tender-eyed, soft, what's the other word? Weak-minded, immature, that setting, that characteristic, it would fit her more fitting than saying, you know, okay, she was vulnerable, she was weak-willed, because she easily was being manipulated by her father to carry on this act to beguile or trick Jacob. It had nothing to do with her looks. You know, it was just the way that those sentences are put together, that her sister is being described as, that's another way of tricking your mind to think what they want you to think. So if you think that, okay, well, they're talking about Rachel's beauty and they're talking about her, you know, how she was favored and beautiful, so tender-eyed must mean that Leah was unattractive. But as we just saw, they're twins. So that would throw it out of the window, because majority of, you know, twins actually look alike. And even if they were fraternal twins, it still is more fitting to say, yeah, she was tender-eyed as in weak-willed, because she allowed her father to use her to trick Jacob. And she didn't stand up. She didn't do anything. She went along with it, you know? And of course, she ended up wanting him for herself. And if you guys really look at it, if you guys remember back, I brought it up in my other video as well, with Isaac and Rebecca. This is if you guys look at it, the same way that Jacob and his mother Rebecca tricked their father, or beguiled their father to make it seem like that he was Esau in order to receive the blessing. If you look at it, this is the same exact kind of trick that's being now used upon him. And he's getting the other end of the stick, because now he's the one that's receiving this trick, or is being beguiled, you know, by another, in a sense that he wanted one daughter, but he's being beguiled by the other. And I just felt that it's really ironic how the tables kind of turned on poor Jacob here in this sense. When I realized that, I'm like, he was tricking his father to be a son, his other son, and now the trick came back on him because he wanted one daughter, but he was being tricked by the other. So I felt that was very ironic, but I wanted to share that. So yeah, so that's it with that story. So, I mean, not the story. I've still got a lot more to look deeper into. So yes, once again, in conclusion to that topic, the actual term tender-eyed did not in fact mean that she was unattractive. Rachel and Leah were twin sisters, and it just meant that she was easily influenced by her father Laban to trick Jacob into marrying her. So on to the next topic. Okay, so after being tricked by Laban and Leah into marrying her, Jacob served another 7 years for the woman that he wanted to marry, which was Rachel. She was given a handmaid as well, and they ended up being one big happy, well, not a big happy family. So the next, we're going to get into more of their actual baby mama beef, the fighting between the sisters of the love and affection of this one man. So Genesis 29. Genesis 29. I'm going to start at verse 31 through 35. And when the Almighty Yah saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb. But Rachel was barren, just like their mother was before. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, surely the Almighty Yah hath looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, because the Almighty Yah hath heard I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name Levi, or Livy. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, now will I praise the Almighty Yahuwah. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left bearing. Okay, so here in this sense, at this time, Leah had given birth quite a few times, and with each child, she said, okay, now my husband's going to love me because I'm giving him a child. Now my husband's going to love me. I've given him another child. Now my husband's going to love me. So with each child, with each birth, she's longing and she's desperately seeking the love and affection for Jacob. But he doesn't love her. He loves Rachel. And Rachel is barren, just like their mothers were, just like Rebecca was at a point in time, and just like Sarah. Remember when I said in my other video that this, the barrenness must proceed from them, because she's of their loins, or their descendants. So it came, the barrenness started with them, so it must proceed down the line. So it only makes sense that she is now barren as well. She's loved by her husband, but she's the barren one. Okay? So we're going to go to chapter 30. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, give me children, or I will die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, and Jacob said, am I in Yahuwah's stead, who hath withheld thee from the fruit of thy womb? So she's getting angry. Rachel is getting angry. She's jealous of her sister because her sister is bearing Jacob all these children, and she have yet to have a child by him. So she's angry and jealous of her sister, and her frustration drew to her husband, just as even Sarah got frustrated. Okay, so yes, she grew frustrated, rightfully so. She said, give me children. She's telling Jacob, give me children, or I'm gonna die. And he grew angry and frustrated with her. He said, am I the Most High? Am I the one who's keeping your womb closed, basically? Am I the one who's withholding you? No, that's not my issue. It's not me doing this. He's telling her, like, don't get mad at me. This is not something that I have control over. This is the Most High. So you have to, you have to respect, though. You have to take it to him and pour your heart out to him. This is what Jacob is pretty much telling her. So if you read forth, and she ended up doing the same exact thing that Sarah had done with Hagar. She gave her handmaid Bilhah to Jacob, in terms of her handmaid having conceiving. First, she conceived Dan, and then she conceived Naphtali. It doesn't really say if they were twins or if they were separate conceptions or anything like that, but she bore those two. Okay, and as we saw before, actually, I'm going to go to the next scriptures. Let's go to Genesis 30, and we're going to go down to 9. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, meaning she must have, she stopped having children for a point in time. She gave Jacob 4 sons. So at a point, she just stopped bearing. The Most High closed her womb. As it says, she came from bearing. She left bearing. So she wasn't bearing bearing children. She probably got barren for a short period of time. When Leah saw that she left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bore Jacob's son. And Leah said, a troop cometh, and she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will come be blessed. And she called his name Asher. Okay, so seeing that her sister gave her handmaid to Jacob and she had 2 children, Leah's like, okay, well, I can't have any more children right now, so I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to give Jacob, which is my husband also, to my handmaid so he can make her have children also, and they're going to be 2 more children added on to me, like they're my children. And as I said, she had Gad and Asher. So these 2 women, 2 sisters, are fighting for the love and affection of this man, and who's gonna have more children with him, and things like that. So it was a lot of beef going on right now, right? But it gets so much deeper. So still in Genesis 30, let's go down to 14. This is when their children got a little bit older. This is where it got a little bit confusing, but things happen. Okay. And Reuben went in his days of the wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. And then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy sons mandrakes. I might be saying that wrong. Mandrakes. Yeah, mandrakes. And she said unto her, it is a small matter that thou hast taken my husband, and wouldest take thou away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son mandrakes. Okay, so what is happening here is that Leah's son Reuben, he went out, in the harvest, and he found these mandrakes. And I didn't know what mandrakes was until I actually looked it up. Mandrakes are Mediterranean plant, right? It's a plant that resembles a human body, and it's known for healing, being used for medicine, right? And this is what Leah's son found, and he brought it to his mom. And Rachel's like, give me that. So she wanted to use it for her infertility because, like I said, it was used for medicine. So the only thing that I could say that she wanted to use it for was for her infertility, because at this time she was barren. And she was trying to do any and everything she could to get the Most High to open up that wound. So she said, give me those mandrakes. But Leah's like, no, you already have my husband. You already, why would you gonna take this medicine, this plant medicine from my son too? You already have my husband. So Rachel is desperate at this point. So she's like, okay, Leah, well, I'll give you your husband, or our husband, to lay with for one night. I'll give you him for a night so I can have this medicine, right? So she's desperate. This is her desperation to get rid of her infertility issues so she can be able to have a son with her husband Jacob. So they agreed. Later that night, Jacob came in, and as they agreed upon, Leah was able to be with their husband. And she then she conceived and bore Issachar, and then she bore how do you say it? Zephalim. And then after that, she had a daughter, Dinah, right? So it doesn't really say if they were all 3 separate or occasions, or were they triplets? Did she have 2 boys and a girl at this time, right? It's a possibility, but like I said, it doesn't really say. So, but I only say that because it doesn't say that, okay, after this, she gave him another time where he could, lay with her and she bore Dinah or such and such. So I just do, I don't know. I won't say specifically that it was, all three, but I wouldn't put him past it that, especially in these times, earlier times where, multiple births were pretty hip because that's how they were going to be able to populate the earth, right? It just makes logical sense. So, it's very possible that within that one night that she conceived and ended up having 3 more children from that conception. Or it's also possible that, it's 2 other times that we didn't know about or that's being spoken about. It doesn't say it in Jasher either, to make the conception of those other children. But if you continue on, only after Leah bore all the children, then the Most High decided to open up the womb of Rachel. And she first bore Joseph and later on Benjamin. But, and she, of course, she said a prayer also unto the Most High, and he hearkened unto her. He listened to her. She said, please heal me from my affliction. This is in the book of Joshua too, but I'm trying to hurry up and get to the next topic. I want this video to be brief. I'm trying to keep it brief, but it's a lot of information, in a nutshell. So, yeah, the Most High had chosen to open up her womb after all these other children that Jacob was able to bear with everyone else except for Rachel. And the Most High finally decides that after everyone else had their child, okay, I'm going to give you your child, Rachel. And she conceived and she bore Joseph, who Jacob loved very, very much, as he did his mom. So, yeah, as you can see, the baby mama beef was really intense when it came to these 2 sisters and their love for Jacob. They wanted more children with him, and as you saw, Leah was desperate for his love and his affection. She knew that he loved her sister, and she's like, of course she wanted him for herself. That's why she went along with her father to portray and act like she was her sister. So the next topic I want to get into was the topic about the stolen images that Rachel stole from her father Laban. So after the children were born and they became a family, Jacob was said, he wanted to be let go because he serviced all these years to Laban. And he was like, you know what? I think I just want to take my wives, take our handmaids, take all that we have, take my children, and I want to leave your household. Like, I think it'd be great for us to just leave. And the scripture says that Laban's countenance or his attitude wasn't the same as it was towards Jacob. It was very, very different. He started changing his wages. He changed his wages, I think it said at least 10 times. So he was trying to, he was getting mistreated. Especially for all the things that Jacob did, he was being mistreated and not appreciated for his work. And Laban's entire attitude towards Jacob just changed. It wasn't how it was before. I think the blessings, because when you read it, it says that Laban was blessed on the account of Jacob. So a lot of blessings Laban received because of Jacob being the servants and doing his servants and his diligence there alongside him and things like that. So a lot of blessings came to Laban. And I think probably those blessings got to his head because he started changing his attitude. Like, his demeanor had changed when it came to Jacob. Like I said, he changed his wages. probably trying to cheat him out, or I don't know. It didn't really get into too much detail about exactly what happened. It just said that the person that Laban used to be, he just started changing. And I think I know why, but I'm gonna tell you. Okay, well, I'll tell you. And it started changing because there isn't a maybe. Laban started to follow other gods, and you can tell because when Jacob decided to flee, he said he did. The scripture says that he decided to flee anyway. He didn't want to wait around anymore for Laban, so he took his wives, his children, their handmaids, everything that they had, and he fled the country. He fled, to go far away from him. And Rachel, he didn't know, Jacob didn't know that Rachel had stolen her father's images, which were images of other gods. So I say that Laban's attitude and the way that he started treating Jacob had to have happened after he started worshiping these other gods, because as we know, worshiping other gods other than the Most High is worshiping deities and devils. So that's the only conclusion that I can, draw, and I think it's a pretty good one, that if once, Laban and Jacob's mother, Rebecca, were brother and sister, so they both were brought under the same household to know the Most High. But as in time goes by, you can tell that Laban started worshiping and praising other gods. So in his interaction with these other gods, they caused him to start changing his attitude and start treating Jacob poorly. So that's why I say that. But we're going to get into scripture. So we're going to go to Genesis first. Genesis 31. And we're going to go down to verse 19. Sorry. Genesis 31:19. And Laban went to shear his sheep, because, Rachel was the sheep keeper, but obviously, being a mom and being a wife, she wasn't really on that anymore. Plus, they were in the middle of fleeing. So Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. So if we know the laws, the Most High says, do not worship any graven images, wood and stone. Meaning any images that are, like he said, any images of any other gods, any images, wood and stone, whatever, anything that's an image that's is also tied into idolatry, and that's worshiping other gods that are not the Most High. That's in his laws. So we know right there that Laban is worshiping other gods. He's not worshiping the Most High because he's having images, right? But I used to ask myself when reading this, so before I get into that, sorry, I don't want to lose you guys. So after they fled, right, and Rachel took her father's images, and some accountants or acquaintances of Laban, because he went out to shear his sheep, so he didn't know what happened or where did they go. So when he came back, his acquaintances told him, hey, Jacob left, he took your daughters, he took everything that you had, ox, sheep, everything, and he took them, and he's gone. Like he fled, he left. So, and Laban, hearing these things, he's like, okay, after all I've done for him, he's gonna just take my daughters, he's just gonna leave. I don't appreciate that. So and I'm sure he noticed that his images were missing at this time, so that really made him to like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go find Jacob and see what did he do? Why did he take my images? Why did he take my daughters? Why did he take everything, right? So he went to go confront Jacob. And he's asking Jacob, why did you take my images? Why did you take my daughters? And you didn't tell me, and all this and all that. So let's go to Genesis. Actually, Genesis 31. And we're going to go start at verse 30. And now thou wouldst needed be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house. Yet wherefore thou hast stolen my gods. So he's telling Jacob, you longed after, you wanted to leave my house. Okay, fine, but why have you stolen my gods? And he's saying it right here, thou stolen my gods. That is what the Most High said. Do not worship other gods, wood and stone. But here's Laban worshiping other gods, wood and stone. And this is Rebekah's brother. They grew up in the same household. Keep that in mind. Okay. At verse 31, and Jacob answered and said unto Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, peradventure thou wouldest take my by force thy daughters from me. So he's saying, I fled from you. I didn't tell you that I was leaving because I thought you were going to take your daughters from me. I thought you were going to take my wives from me. You gave them to me in the first place, so I feared that you would take them by force from me because I wanted to leave. With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let them not live. Before our brethren discern thou is what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not Rachel had stolen them. So Jacob is saying, I didn't take your gods. I didn't take your images. But whoever did take them, let them not live. Not knowing that he is cursing his own beloved wife, Rachel, right now. He's saying this about Rachel because Rachel took her father's gods. She took these images, but she didn't tell anyone, including Jacob. She didn't tell her husband, which is something wrong on her part. She didn't tell her husband about this. And he's saying to Laban, I wish death upon those, whoever took them or whoever find them, but I didn't do it. So not only did she not take up for her husband or say anything, her husband is not knowing that he's cursing her by speaking death upon whoever has his images because he's being wrongfully accused right now. 33. And Laban went into Jacob's tent and Leah's tent and into the two maidens' tents, but he found them not, and then went out of Leah's tent and entered unto Rachel's tent. So Jacob is telling him, I don't have them, but Laban is like, yeah, he's not really buying it, so he's going to look in everyone's tent to make sure that they don't have his gods or his images, right? He's looking for them. And as he's looking for them, verse 34, now Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. So Rachel is sitting her behind on them. She's sitting on these things. And he said, and she said to her father, let it not displease my master that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. So he searched, but found not the images. So she's telling her father, Rachel told her father, please don't be angry with me, father. The custom of women, which is her menstruation, or her issue of blood, or however you want to call it, her period. She's saying, I'm on my period, so I cannot get up and help you look for these things. So it doesn't really say specifically if Leah got up and was helped look for him, or Bilhah and Zilpah were helped looking for him. But if he went in their tents, by Rachel saying this, it kind of gives you that thing like, well, out of all the women that are there, why is she the only one mentioning saying, well, I can't get up to go look for it? So I said that to say I think the other women, they were helping him look for it. Yes, but she told him she could not help them look for him. So if you go, okay, if you really look, if you're really reading this story and the question rises in your head, like it did me as well, well, why did she take her father's gods, knowing that her father, he worshiped not who they're worshiping anymore. He's not worshiping the Most High, because the Most High said, thou shalt not worship other gods with wood and stone. Jacob doesn't have anything that's wood and stone. She doesn't have anything that's wood and stone. So why would you take your father's images? And then the questions arise like, okay, is Is Leah, I'm not Leah, I get their names mixed up, sorry. Is Rachel worshiping these other gods as well? Is that why she took them? Or things like that? Or some people did say she took them for specific reasons, which was exactly the case. She did take them for a specific reason, and the specific reason I'm going to show you in my favorite book of Jasher. We're going to go back to the book of Jasher, and we're going to go to 31. And we're going to go to verse 40. This is why she took them. I have these questions in my head, like no one knew. I looked at videos. Some people did have an idea, but I was like, you know what? I don't like taking other people's word for it. So when I read this book of Jasher, I was like, aha! My question finally is answered. So I have a lot of those aha moments, like, oh, that is why that happened. It show you that the Most High's grace and mercy is something undeniable. All praises to the Most High. Oop. Sorry guys, my light went out. Okay. So, Book of Jasher 31, verse 40 to 44. And Rachel stole her father's images, and she took them, and she concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat, and she went on. And this is the matter of the images. And taking a man who is the firstborn, and slaying him, and taking the hair off his head, and taking salt, and salting the head, and anointing it in oil, and then taking a small tablet of copper, or a tablet of gold, writing the name on it, and placing the tablet under his tongue, and taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, lighting it up lights before it, and bowing down to this. So this is all the things that her father would do when it comes to this image, or if he wanted something to be done. Basically a ritual, right? Verse 42. And at the time when they bow down to it, it speaketh to them in all manners that they ask of, though the power of the name which is written in it. So this thing speaks to them after doing all that it just said, anointing it, salting it, all taking hairs, it's witchcraft, right? If you basically, if you really look and reading into this is witchcraft, right? This is a ritual that would have to be done in order to get this image to speak to you. Why? Because it's not of the Most High, which is going to speak directly to you or come to you. The Most High comes to you and speaks to you in a dream or in a vision, right? But all these weird things that has to be done to this, it lets you know that it's of other gods, which is not the Most High, and which is the enemy, right? So, verse 43. And some make them in figures of men, of gold and silver, and go to them in times known of them. And the figures receive the influence of the stars and tell them future things. This is why the Most High said, stay away from mediums and people that think they're psychics and things like that. And in this manner were the images which Rachel stole from her father. And Rachel stole these images which were her father's, in order that Laban might not know through them where Jacob had gone. So this is why Rachel stole these images. She didn't steal them for her own selfish reasons. She was trying to protect herself, protect her husband, and steal these images. Maybe she could have destroyed them, maybe she could have thrown them out, but she didn't want her father to go to it and do this ritual that is spoke of, that needed to be done in order for it to speak to it and tell him where they had gone. She was trying to protect herself and protect her husband and their family and children, of course, on, so if her, so her father wouldn't try to do something worse to hurt him or kill him or, harm them. She was trying to do this to protect them, so this image would not reveal to her father where they had gone. But her father ended up finding out anyway. Maybe he had other images that revealed to them where they were. And, it still didn't help much because he still found out where they were and things like that. So things still played out in their favor because they were, followed by the Most High. The Most High had trust. So, had their trust, I'm sorry. So she kind of lacked faith in this sense because she was scared and terrified. Even though she had good intentions, she still not only lacked faith, but when her father did find out and he came and to confront Jacob, she didn't stand up for her husband and say, "Husband, I took them. Dad, I took them because I didn't want you." She still sat there. She still covered these images. She still made it seem like we don't know where they are. She didn't speak up. She didn't say anything. And it still put her husband at a sense that Laban thought that he probably still had them, which caused her husband to unknowingly curse her. Remember I said, Jacob said, "Whoever finds your images or whoever has them, let them not live because I don't have them. But whoever does, let them not live." He cursed his own wife unknowingly because he didn't know she had them. So he cursed his beloved wife, Rachel. And she, later on, while giving birth to Benjamin, her last son, she ended up dying. He didn't know he cursed her. But yeah, that's what happened. That's how she ended up dying because, if things would have been a little bit different if she came out and said, "Okay, Dad, you found us anyway. I took them because I was scared for my life. I was scared for my husband's life. I was scared for my children. If that was the case, I was scared for my family. So I took these things. I took this image, not my husband. He had nothing to do with it. I took it because I was afraid that you would do this thing, that they would reveal to you where we had gone to. But since you found us anyway, there's no need for me to continue on with this lie of this taking the image. So I'm just going to give up myself." She didn't do that. But I feel like things could have been a little bit different if she had done that. But, who's to know? But that is it. That is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I didn't babble on. I hope I encourage you guys to read the book of Joshua. It's such a great book, guys. Such a great book. And it has so many hidden meanings and missing pieces to this big old puzzle that spells out understanding. You want full understanding, you gotta seek out and read these taken out books of the Bible. The book of Joshua is only one of them. I would recommend every single book that they have taken out or hidden or anything, the Apocrypha. Get your hands on it, guys. It will make your understanding that much better, okay? But with that being said, thank you guys again for tuning in. Thank you for watching my video. If you haven't watched my other videos, please go ahead and do so. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I love you all. I love you all. Stay blessed.